Hey guys, Ralph here from the Endgame Investor, and today we're going to talk about diesel. Diesel fuel. Diesel fuel is running out with diesel. And so the amount of diesel right now at this time of year has never been lower since 1945, the end of World War II, when America was fighting the Japanese and the Nazis. Why is it running out? Because the United States has ingeniously decided to ban Russian diesel from the market, which is going to screw things up because the global economy is used to supplies of diesel coming from there, and now it isn't. And so the diesel complex is forced into extreme backwardation, which disincentivizes stocking.
You want excitement? Shove this up your stocking!
Which means in basic English, the prices for diesel now are more expensive than the prices for diesel later, which incentivizes stockpilers to sell diesel now and not stock for later if they're going to get more money for it now rather than later. Why should they lose money to their competitors and go out of business? That is not what a business wants to do. So I'm going to show you the diesel numbers, and it's not necessarily that the number of barrels of diesel that are available is the lowest ever, but it is the lowest ever for this time of year, which is the time for diesel stocking. And that stocking tends to destock around December, January, when, it gets cold and people need heating oil and other diesel applications. And then it starts to stock again after April. And so for this time of year, the amount of diesel that is available in the stockpiles of the United States is the lowest since 1945. And 1945, you may remember from such wars as World War II, when all natural resources were being directed towards the war effort. And so the amount of diesel right now at this time of year has never been lower since 1945, the end of World War II, when America was fighting the Japanese and the Nazis with diesel. And so let's go into the Energy Something Administration and the numbers they have for the diesel stockpiles. Here is the EIA website. See here, if we mouse over it, going back to 1982, looks like 1982. Yeah. We have a peak here in the month of December, and then a trough here in April, peak in December, trough in April, peak in December, trough in April, peak in January this time, trough in April, May. Same thing over and over and over and over again. This is the seasonal pattern, and it makes sense because you need diesel in December through April. Mostly that's when the demand is the highest and the stockpiling occurs in the other months of the year. And so here we have a change in the pattern. And this in July 2020, we had a record amount of diesel because of post-lockdowns. There was a lot of stockpiling, and we have the diesel supply down at a minimum of 104,000 barrels in May 6th, which is the normal seasonal trend. And then we have a restockpiling to 117, very meager. And all of a sudden, we're back down to 106,357 barrels on October 21st. And going back to these seasonal patterns here, the stockpiling will only happen until around December. So we have about 2 months left to stockpile as much diesel as possible. And then what happens is the seasonal trends take over and we start to fall in the supply. And it's not going to change this year. There's still going to be a growing demand of diesel from December to April. And the fear is that in those months at these current stockpiles, they're not going to make it through the winter, which should not be surprising given the very basic logic that Europe is not going to make it through the winter because it is cut off from Russian energy. And so if the United States has cut itself off from Russian energy, specifically diesel in this case, then they won't make it through the winter without some kind of nationalization of the entire supplies or sending everyone into slave labor in order to pump diesel out of I don't even know how it would work. Maybe it won't work. Maybe we'll have like a cascading crash of the economy because you can't run an economy without diesel fuel these days. And Forbes makes this situation pretty clear as to why it's happening The U.S. has a diesel shortage, says Robert Rapier.
He's talking about us giving off a rapey vibe.
Whoa! What? Dude, nothing was rapey till you brought up the rapey vibes.
Jay's not rapey. Jay couldn't rape a fly.
Forbes says, why is there a diesel shortage this year? Wondering. There are 4 factors, but 2 of those factors are in play every year. As mentioned above, distillate demand spikes at this time of year. Yeah, well, that's why we have, no, it's not why we have a diesel shortage. Demand always spikes at certain times of year and the market adjusts, but it does that every year, says the article. Yes, indeed. This is also the time of year that refineries are doing maintenance. They do maintenance every year. Nothing new here. So what's the real reason why there's a shortage of diesel? The primary reason is the cutoff of Russian imports. You know, sometimes that's all you have to say.
You had me at hello.
You stop importing a bunch of energy from Russia, energy markets are going to go crazy. And so here, my friends, is the backward dated curve. Backward dated meaning the price of diesel for immediate delivery is much more expensive than the price of diesel for delivery in the future, which incentivizes the sale of diesel now and the destocking and the falling of diesel supplies. And so you have November 2022, which is tomorrow. So delivery for tomorrow, $4.59 a gallon. And then down to December, $3.69 a gallon, going all the way out to, as far as these contracts go, January 2026, $2.50 a gallon. So diesel for delivery now is about twice as expensive as diesel for delivery in 2026. What do you think people are going to do? They're going to sell diesel now. The stockpilers are going to sell diesel now, and they're not going to stockpile it for the future. But I wanted to share with you something surprising, that this is not a diesel problem, even though it has been triggered by the cutting of supplies from Russia. This is actually a dollar problem and not a diesel problem, and I will demonstrate that with the following 3 charts. Here is diesel priced in dollars going back to 1979. You see here that diesel is pretty stable from 1979 for 20 years until 1999. And then it starts going up and up and up and up until the 2008 financial crisis. And then bam, down into the financial crisis. Demand gets cut by the collapsing economy. And then all of a sudden, here are the COVID lockdowns in 2020. And diesel has gone vertical from about 50 cents a gallon to $5.25 a gallon, is now wagging back and forth between $3 and $5.50 a gallon. It is pretty nuts, but this chart hides something very basic, and that is this. Look at diesel priced in gold ounces. You can get a gallon of diesel for 0.003 ounces of gold. Is this a historically high price? No, it's about the average that we've seen going back to 1995. And yeah, it was very high in 2008. It was about 0.007 ounces per gallon of diesel, but the price of diesel has actually gone down despite the embargo against Russian diesel since 2020, whatever it was. And so we see the real price of diesel in terms of real money is down, like the price of everything is. And you can see the same in silver as well. Despite how poorly silver has been trading in dollar terms, you can see that the average going back to 1995, it's still around now. The price has not changed. The price of diesel has not changed in silver all that much. So this is not really a diesel problem. This is a money problem because most people do not have gold and silver. The companies that sell diesel do not have gold and silver. They have dollars, and the dollar is weakening, and these charts prove it. And so we all know there's going to be some kind of straw or some kind of event or some kind of thing or some kind of mistake that causes a chain reaction in the global economy that's going to start with some odd thing. Could it be diesel? Well, diesel could cause the bankruptcy of many companies that rely on cash flow from energy that they need to use to create their revenue streams. And if that is shut down because there is no diesel, and there should be no diesel at this rate by April, which is about 5 months away, then this could easily cascade into a banking crisis, which will force the final Fed pivot and the death of the dollar system. Is it definitely going to be this trigger? No. There might be a rabbit pulled out of a hat somewhere. There might be some magical diesel supply that the Biden administration is able to cook up somehow. I don't know what it's going to be, but something is going to cause a systemic reaction. And we see possible causes coming up every few weeks now. So whether it's diesel or whether it's something else, a big event is coming, and you got to be ready for it by owning real money, because only in real money is diesel not expensive. This is Ralphie with the Endgame Investor, wishing everyone a diesel-filled Halloween and a diesel-filled winter holiday season. I think I have a jug of it in my front yard somewhere. But if there's not enough diesel, we can always go to Green Power or whatever that is. See you guys soon.
An analyst and a therapist. The world's first analrapist. Yes, no, it did not look good on paper, but I didn't stop because of the police inquiries.